This is the Page Publishing Book Club. What's up, Rob? How you doing over there? Hello, my Page Publishing Book Club faithful. Another week, another group of newly published authors, and the first one up highlights a couple of very important things. First of all, she had a great experience, Rob, with Page, which obviously that's what we're going for here. But even more important for those of you having a tough time getting started on that first book, she talks about how keeping a journal really helped her. Melrose Ayres writes about a little girl who carries a special bag with her all the time. And the inspiration came from a real-life experience, but she explains how her story went from reality to finally her first book. The name of the book, What's in Your Bag? Melrose, what's in your bag?
What's in your bag? It can be all kinds of things. It's about this little girl that, for some strange reason, she has a unusual bag that she carries to school. And the reason this came about is because my daughter is 40 now, so this would have been about 30 years ago. And she actually is my stepdaughter, but we decided that she needed to come with us. She was not being taken care of. And every time she'd visit, I'd noticed more and more things were wrong. You know, for instance, the first time she walked in, it was like she was held sore feet. Her little toenails hadn't been trimmed in so long they were growing around her toes. You know, just odd little things kept happening, and I kept seeing, and I finally told my husband, I said, you know what, this child cannot survive like this. So I said, tell her next time you talk to her that she can come live with us. So in about 2 weeks, she called. She said, I'd like to come with you and live with your dad. And I said, okay. Now, mind you, this child is like 9. I made arrangements with the child to pick her up. So the day I walked out to go get her, I had never talked to her mother. And on the way out the door, I happened to grab a brand new box of garbage bags. I didn't know why, but I did. And when I got there, she was changing clothes. She says, I'll be there in a minute. And I could tell when I walked in the room, things weren't right, you know. And I said, well, where's your stuff? And I turned around, and she pointed behind me, and everything was in that front corner of the living room. And that's what I bought those bags for. We started picking them up together, and some of her stuff was cut in half, and, you know, just awful things that a child should not go through. And I took the child that day, and she didn't see her mother again until, gosh, way after she graduated from high school, when she looked her up. That's what I bought those garbage bags for. And so this little story had been in my head all those years, but you know how life kind of throws you a curveball. And even though this is in my head, I always journaled, because I believe that when you journal, your true feelings and what you're going through, it's right there for you to see or reread. That's the best way to work out any kind of a problem. 30 years later, I'm looking through these journals, and ever since when she was a kid, every time she moved afterwards, she always moved in black garbage bags. So it was like, it was just an omen, you know. It got written down a couple of years ago, and everybody that would read it, they'd say, well, you need to do something with this. So, you know, and Page Publishing has been amazing, you know. I had no idea it was such a process, but it's an amazing process. About a year ago, my brother was watching like a golf game on TV, and this publisher thing came up as a commercial or something. And he says, I think you need to check these people out. So I did a little research, and I called them, and I said, will you take a hard copy of my book, you know? And there's a lot of places that won't. They want everything digital, you know, online. And I think that technology is great, but there's something about holding a book in your hand.
So this whole story about what's in your bag became a children's book about a little girl who had a special bag.
Right. She carries the black garbage bag to school. She's in her first year of school, so she's like kindergarten age. Where all the other kids have backpacks and stuff, her bag, that to her is a special magic black bag. And it has a ragged red ribbon tied around it. And so that's her bag, and she's proud of her bag. But in her bag, she also carries things like a pillow, a picture of her family. And, you know, everybody's definition of what's in your bag is different. It's basically what's in your bag is the feelings and stuff that you roll up and carry in your heart. So it's, you know, it just depends.
Are you talking to libraries, bookstores, reading it to children?
We've got a book signing here in my small little town at the library. They're going to give me one in November, and I'm going to start doing talks at school. Yeah, it's been amazing, absolutely amazing. And the little stories and stuff that you get from life, that's what means everything to you. And when you say it's different seeing a book, I want people to keep reading to their children. Children want to read, and their parents want to read to them. And the most fondest memory I have is watching my granddaughter sitting up in the middle of her bed in her papa's arms, and he'd always read to her every night. And he was sound asleep. I was peeking in the door. He was sound asleep. And so picture this little blonde-headed girl, and she's sitting there in his arms, and she's turning the pages, and she's reading out loud. Now, she is so little, but she has it memorized, of course. And she's turning pages, and she'll lick her left thumb and then turn the page with her right hand. And it was just so adorable, so they get more from a book. I love the internet, but I'm sorry. That's what I believe.
Well, you know what, Melrose, it's a good thing you believe it, and a lot of other people believe it too, because people are still writing books, and all you have to do is go to the beach on a summer day and see how many people are reading their iPads or their phones versus real life, hardback or paperback books. All right? Imagine a house where every single room has a story, and you'll begin to understand what Juliet Lem's book is about. It's called Stare. So, Juliet, where are these rooms?
I have a pretty big family, and we constantly talk about, gosh, I wish we could have saved the house. I wish we could have bought it and kind of kept it within the family and stuff. So that was kind of my inspiration for it. It was a way of keeping it in the family by turning it into a book.
How many people are in your family?
Well, I have 5 sisters. I'm the youngest of 6, and they're all married and they all have kids. So it always feels like a big tribe. Every time we get together, it's like a small community.
Six girls altogether that were raised in this house, and after your mom died, yeah. When was that? How long ago was that?
In 94.
Wow. And then you had to get rid of the house.
Yeah.
Well, I bet those rooms, if they could talk, this is what they might say.
Yeah, they probably would. Maybe with a little more humor in it, but
Like, what would your room say?
Fun of us a little bit. Well, my room was kind of at the top of the house. It was overlooking the backyard, and I shared it with the second to the younger sister. I don't know. I guess it would just kind of it would laugh a little bit at our antics and what went on and the things we talked about, and maybe cry a little at the boy band posters that I used to plaster all over the walls.
You don't know that. You have a right to have a boy band poster phase. Who didn't? I sure did. So it must have felt really good to get this all out and down on paper.
It did. It really did. My dad actually passed away 2 years ago. He was never a big fan of me becoming a writer. So I think it was only after he passed away I kind of thought, well, why the heck not? Why not just put it out there and kind of see what happens? And it just felt like something that needed to be said in a way. It's like in my version of our family history, my mom didn't pass away so early, and I just kind of wanted to kind of rewrite it in a way.
Aww.
So, yeah.
Are you doing anything on your own to promote your book?
So I started with Goodreads. I'm trying to establish my author page on there.
Goodreads, that's a place where people can access your work?
Goodreads is it's a social networking site for people who like to read. You can share what books you like, what books you've read, favorite authors. I think it's it's a good platform for authors to interact with those people who have read their book and are possibly looking for what other future books that might be coming.
You going to write some more?
Yes, I am.
Good.
I already have a few written. They just need illustrations and to go through the whole publication process. But yeah, I do have some written.
Are they in the same vein?
Yes, they are. The second one actually focuses on me and my experiences being the youngest child. And so I poke a little fun at my older sisters, but I'm pretty sure they'll be okay with it. And yeah, that's kind of the one that's coming out next.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to it. Carla Brown was abused as a child, and one of the many horrific truths about child abuse is feeling that you're all alone. Well, over time, Carla realized she wasn't alone, and in fact, child abuse occurred among friends and family. It's what inspired her to write her book entitled My Name is Emily. Carla.
Yeah, people need to beware. Be aware of these family members. You love them, you would never suspect that from your family member. But most children that are bruised is by someone close. Someone in the home, someone close to them. An uncle, a brother, a stepfather, sometimes a real father. A cousin, the best friend, an uncle, someone that's like an uncle. A lot of times, someone that's close to that child. And that also goes for little boys, too. I strongly suggest for people to read this book, especially women and women with children. I really, I can't express that enough. My Name is Emily is an excellent book. It's a fiction book, but it's a true story in so many people's lives. I run across people all the time. I introduce myself. I show them my book and everything, and they read the back of it. You know, I actually had a couple of people say it happened to them and started crying. Girl, one time I was at Applebee's eating, and I showed my book to my server. She read the back of it, and she started crying right there at the table. It's a really touching story, but it has a very, very positive outcome. My goal, too, is to encourage young people and parents who are victims of domestic violence and abuse. You know, that abuse is never acceptable, whether it's physical or mental. So many of us accept abuse. Some people accept abuse thinking that that person loved them. That's a way of showing love. Abuse is never acceptable. All type of abuse, even, mental abuse, is never acceptable. Never let anyone abuse you. And I want to say to women with children especially, pay attention to your children. Talk to them. Listen to them. Ask questions. Become their very best friend. Make sure that they're not afraid to come to you and talk to you about anything. Anything. When I was being abused as a child, I was afraid to tell my mom. I thought it was something I was doing wrong. I thought I would get in trouble. There's no way I would tell my mom. And as I became an adult, come to find out my sister was molested by my uncle. And when she finally did tell my mom didn't believe her.
Carla, how many times do we hear that over and over again? Kids go to their parents, they go to a teacher. Nobody believes them. And no one can emphasize the importance of keeping that door open with your children and letting them know that no matter what they say to you, you will listen to them and you will be there for them. Thanks so much, Carla. With that, we got to take a quick break. Attical Science. Ever heard of it? You will now. How to buy your first condo and a story about redemption and forgiveness. Do not go anywhere. This is the Page Publishing Book Club.
Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything: copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.
You came back. You came back. It's amazing. Now, why not? Why not come back? We are a treasure trove of information here at the Page Publishing Book Club. You know what? I bet you this will be the very first place where you will hear about something called Attical Science. Yes, Michael Trisho has written a book entitled The Space Mystery: Fundamentals of Attical and Physical Science. Tell us, Michael, what is Attical Science?
This is science of the space. This didn't exist before. This field of science didn't exist. I'm the founder of this science.
So this is a science that never existed before. It existed. It was undiscovered.
It didn't exist. Nobody never researched the space for 150 years, but they never able to solve the mystery of the space. What is space all about? What is space made of? What are property and characteristics of the space?
Are you a scientist?
I'm scientist of the new Attical science. I'm the only scientist. I'm the founder of this science, okay? I study this subject for 38 years, okay?
What do you do day to day? Are you a teacher?
I'm now retired, but I work in electromechanical designer. I didn't graduate.
Is this book so someone like myself can understand it?
This book is written in language for ordinary people. Everybody can understand. And this information give lots of new light on so many things which were unsolved before.
Give me an example.
The present scientific book, which you learn in school and university, they proclaim heat and cold. This is same energy, only they are distinguished by when it's temperature low, then they says this is energy of cold. When energy temperature rises, then it's energy of heat, okay? And in my book, distinguish the energy of heat and energy of cold are two different energies, which are, let's say, energy of heat is produced inside the earth, and the energy of cold, the earth produces on the south and north polar region. There is produced the energy of cold. So these are two different energy, but have one common characteristic of melting together, okay? And then you have a differentiation of energy according to measurement that they use temperature factor in order to measure if it's cold or it's heat.
Have you shared this information with other scientists?
No, I'm not sharing with nobody.
Okay.
I'm sharing with people.
All right. Judith Jackson recently bought a home and was so moved by the experience, she decided to write a book. It's called A Successful and Proven Guide for the First-Time Homebuyer, Putting It All Together. That's a lot of title, Judith, but then again, buying a home isn't easy. And you're not even in real estate, right?
No, I'm not. I'm not in real estate, but we purchased our first condominium about 2 years ago in November. And it just inspired me to write a book about it and help everybody else It's supposed to be a guide for the first-time home buyer.
There's probably a bazillion books out there on how to buy first-time home buyers, right?
Right, there are, but mine I think is unique. It's a very easy read, purchasing your first home. It's not elaborate. It's doesn't have any flamboyant language. It's a very, very simple guide. I write for the reader. I don't write for myself. And it's small. It's about 30 pages, but it's got everything from soup to nuts, from hiring a real estate agent to hiring an attorney for the closing. And I think it's got an enormous amount of information in it.
What is it that you thought people needed to know?
I had wished I had written the book after we purchased our condominium, because we could have done things a little differently, but we're very happy with what we bought. And a lot of books don't cover inspections. A lot of books don't cover, real estate agents. And
what do I need to know about my real estate agent?
You have to really search out. A lot of these real estate agents are salespeople, and they just are interested in making the sale. Others are interested in taking the time, and they're rare. And we were lucky because we were able to do that. We were able to find a real estate agent. She had 20 years in the business. And we took our time, but we worked fast because it's an open market and people are looking. And so we purchased our first condominium within about 3 months.
And what about inspections?
You really have to be careful because, we had an inspector, and he went over the basic thing, but there's a lot of little things that we found out afterwards that we should have had checked. We were lucky because the condo was in very, very good shape. There were no cracks in the walls. We didn't find too many, there weren't many damages at all, really.
So you wanted to pass your good fortune on to other people.
Other readers, exactly.
What are you going to do now?
I had a very good book signing at Barnes & Noble.
Oh, good for you.
Out here in Connecticut, and I have another one coming up in a very large library in the city.
Who set up your book signings?
I did.
Good for you. Do you know how many people are reluctant to do that?
I know. It's not easy.
Well, what did you do? How did you do your book signing?
I called the store. I told them I just published a new book, and they have a lot of events going on, and they signed me up.
Yeah. They love it. You're a local author. What's better than that?
Yes.
Finally, the title of Richard Hartley's book pretty much says it all. It's called Then a Miracle Happened, a story about redemption and forgiveness. Richard.
Well, let me describe it a little bit. Then a Miracle Happened is a true story based on the life of the author. It's amid his dysfunctional family stands an abusive father who is redeemed by events that could only be attributed to God's intervention. So I call it the author's story is a journey through the soul, through his physical lifetime and his own redemption as he learns how to forgive past abuses.
What happened?
Well, I was in an abusive family, and when I was 14, two of my brothers and one sister had married into a Lutheran church, and we ended up joining the Lutheran church, and the abuse stopped at that time.
At the hands of your parents, your father, your mother?
My father, physical abuse.
How many kids are we talking about?
Well, there was 10 kids in the family, and I was amongst the three youngest boys. That the abuse was still going on until the encounter and joining the Lutheran church, when it all stopped.
What happened to make it stop?
We joined the church. He became a kind of a gentle, fun-loving man who read from the Bible most every night the rest of his life.
Did that just happen just by being in church, or did he talk to the pastor, or what happened?
I don't know whether he ever talked to the pastor. I think it just happened by becoming a member of the church. My conclusion, anyway.
How old were you at that point?
I was 14.
So from the time you were 14 on, the abuse ended?
Yes.
Well, that's definitely had to shape your life.
Really.
Are you married? Do you have children now?
I was married for 24 years. I had two children, a late daughter. One of my daughter is deceased. I have a son and two grandchildren and one great-grandson.
So you've grown up, you've had a life, and then you decided that it was time to put this all down on paper?
Well, it happened like this. I was following a spiritual writer, his website, and he was asking for people to write what do you call them, mini books or short stories of spiritual experiences. And I didn't feel I had anything to write about. So, and then one evening or one night, I was awakened in the night by 4 words, and the 4 words were "Then a miracle happened." And at that point, I knew that was the name of a book I was supposed to write, and I call it the story about the author's journey of the soul through this physical lifetime. The second part can only be described as, I call it, prophetic and profound encounters with God and the spiritual world.
So is this the beginning of more writings for you?
I really don't know. I don't think so, but I think to me, my walking orders come from God. If He wants me to write more, He'll let me know. My primary reason was obedience. I was asked to do this, so I was being obedient in writing the story.
Geez, Richard, I have so much respect for your faith, your unquestioning faith and obedience. That word just scares me like you can't even imagine. Thank you, Richard. And I think that's a wrap. Am I right? Yes, Rob. Rob is shaking his head. We got to go. Thank you. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. And don't forget, if you want to share the Page Publishing Book Club with your friends and family, all you have to do is go to 710WOR.iHeart.com and you can download any show you want, anytime you want. Listen to it over and over and over again if you want. That's what Rob does, right? Rob's listening to last week's show. No, really. It's great. If you can't get here at midnight, do yourself a favor and download it. And then you can come back next week. What do you say? We'll do it all over again. Another edition of the Page Publishing Book Club right here. Same time, same place. 710 WOR. Have a great weekend.